Hi, you've clicked onto today's Tropical Tidbit for Saturday, August 23rd. The thoughts expressed in this video are mine alone, and in making decisions, please always consult the National Hurricane Center and National Weather Service, not me. Well, here's Invest 96L, the big story in the Atlantic. Moved near the North Dominican Republic coast last night and is now moving on toward the west-northwest away from Hispaniola today. And this is when we're going to start getting some new information, because now that the storm has cleared all these mountains, we're going to start to see it organized and consolidate a little bit, and the models will be able to latch onto its position a little bit better. This morning's runs initialized it when it was down here near the north coast. They're probably not going to be super useful. Tonight's runs at 0Z will initialize it up here in the southeast Bahamas, and those could be interesting, could give us some new information. But right now it's still a very broad system, but you do see it starting to look more like a spinning circulation. It's no longer a wave with southeast and northeast winds only. We have a nice southwesterly flow off of Hispaniola, which is actually putting some downslope dry air into the system, but that will soon end. But you can see it starting to rotate a little bit in here. And what we see is actually a tiny spinner right here, a little vorticity maximum, and the plane just went in there and found that there were some west winds right here near this southeasternmost Bahama island. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of that island, but there is a little bit of a center, if you will, in here, but it is a little bit misleading because there's a whole area of light winds in here and very similar pressures, so there is a much larger circulation center, if you will, with a smaller, more compact center embedded within it. So that means that it could be moving northwest 1 minute and then west another minute, because they tend to rotate around the larger circulation, these smaller ones in here. So its direction of movement is not necessarily reliable over the short term. But we do seeing it start to get a little bit more looking like it's going to try to develop, and this will probably get named Cristobal eventually, become a tropical storm, but these large waves take their time. This probably won't be bombing out into a very strong hurricane in short order. It will take a while, but the thing is, it does have a lot of time. Because if we look at water vapor imagery, we have this trough coming down off the eastern seaboard. This is weakening steering currents east of the United States, and so 96L is now beginning to slow down, and will spend a lot of time meandering near the Bahamas here over the next couple of days. And exactly where it moves, what its position is in a couple of days, will be crucial to where it finally ends up. The models are everywhere today. We have the UK Met still going west. We have the Canadian now going north after it went west. We have the NOGAPS or NAVJAM going west, and we have the European still going north. I can't show you the most recent European run because it's not out yet for free graphics that I can show you. But last night's run took it really quickly out to the north, very confident out to sea solution. This morning's run was much slower, took its time, and got really close to the southeast coast before curving out. And this is something that is becoming evident in the models now. This is the GFS, which I'll show you just for reference. This is out to day 3. You can see where the storm is north of the Bahamas, and you see this trough digging in here. If we look at water vapor, that's this short wave coming into New York. It's diving down, but when you look at it, if you draw a line directly due north of 96L's center, it's on the west side of the trough. The trough axis has already passed 96L's longitude and is moving east. Usually what that means is that the system is left behind and it's not going to take off to the northeast into the trough. Instead, it's going to continue meandering slowly north or northwest. And I think we've now passed the point where this is a question. I think it is going to miss this trough. A lot of models now agree with that solution. I'm not really seeing any trustworthy models that show it actually catching this trough anymore, and that makes sense given the position of the trough relative to the storm. I think it misses, but now the new problem for 96L's track is a function of what it does with two ridges, and the first one is over the southeastern United States here. This is a big H. And again, you can't move, you can't jam the storm directly into Florida, Georgia, South Carolina with the high sitting there. So it has two options. One is to follow the southern periphery of the ridge and then recurve in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, or it can slowly drift north along the eastern periphery of the ridge in the wake of this trough. And the models are now deferring on that. Now, what the GFS does is, if we go from day 3 to day 4, you see that it hooks west toward the Florida Peninsula. And at this point, to me, it looks like it's moving south of this ridge and is going to move into the Florida Peninsula and then recurve like this. But instead, it turns it straight north right away. So it comes up, it hooks left, and then it turns north again. This is a little bit strange to me, but what may be going on is you see that from day 3 to 4, you see this ridge to the southeast of 96L. You see this poking its nose in here, and we have very significant pressure rises north of Puerto Rico, and what that can do is try to push this, slingshot it back toward the north and northeast, toward the weakness east of this ridge. So there's a little bit of a complicated interplay in here. And what this means is that the position of 96L in the Bahamas in 2 to 3 days is once again very crucial. I've been talking about this for many days now, but the position, even a difference of 50 miles, it's like a ball sitting on top of a hill. A push either way could cause it to continue that direction, and it really determines its future. And so right now, if it's farther south, it's easier to slip south of the ridge over the southeastern states, but if it's farther north, then it's much harder to push west, and it might be more inclined to move north and then eventually push out. What seems unlikely to me right now is that it pushes straight northwest toward the southeast United States coastline, because this ridge is sitting here. It's very hard to do that. Not to rule it out entirely, but it is more likely that we either see it get close to the coast and then move out, or move west over the Florida peninsula and then make it somewhere over the Florida area as it recurves. But as of right now, those details are very hard to gather. Again, we still have a broad system. We need to focus that center. Maybe this will become the center, but once it's really defined, the models will give us a better idea. This is one of those things where humans really have to be careful about making assumptions, because these tiny details, those 50-mile differences in position, that's why we have computers. It's very hard for humans to determine whether it's going to be 50 miles that direction or 50 miles this direction. That's why the computers are here. But if they're not sure, we're not going to be very sure if it comes down to a detail that small. So bottom line, we're still watching this system, and interests in the Bahamas and Florida still need to be watching this. It's not guaranteed that it's going to recurve out to sea. That is still a possibility, and that may happen, in which case only the Bahamas will feel the impacts of this system. But Florida, not out of the woods by any stretch yet, not even close. Within a day or so, I think we will really know where this is likely to go. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.